Hello, welcome to this Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob. Welcome to Stream Streak Day 149. Oh, baby. Day 150 tomorrow. Very excited. I think 150 isn't half of anything, but it's still good. Let's go for that. That's good. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. Hello, Valerie. Yes, I am Death Jester Rob. I'm live in the Honest Wargamer studio. It's not as muggy as it was, which I'm very happy about, and I'm glad to be here with all of you. Hello to everyone who's joined us live. So, Artist Fury, The Dreadwoods, DeBolt, Dan Don't, Gregorius Chan, AOS Archie, yeah, baby. Big love to you. Hook and Pin, thanks for being here. Moody Maker. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. So, today's show is going to be me just talking to you guys, just trying to unpack a little bit. I still, last night, found myself like, me and the 40k guys ended up talking for maybe an hour after the show, just kind of unpacking all of the stuff. Yeah, it is new audio. Does it sound okay? That's the real question. I've had to change up the audio because we're moving a bunch of the equipment to the T-Sports Arena. Oh, it sounds ace. Oh, good. All right. Yeah, so a lot of the equipment's moving to the T-Sports Arena. I actually have started to realize that I might not have actually loads to stream for myself. I was like, oh shit, I use all this stuff there. Anyway, that's a me issue to deal with. And I want to do a big shout out to Matthew, who has been helping us with some of the audio that we're going to be putting in for the Super Series. I'd like to go on about it. I have done a blog post that's going to be on the Honest Wargamer, which I will find at some point. But obviously, we're trying to raise money, as you can see, in the little tip bar below for some headsets. I've written a blog post to kind of explain in detail why, which I will include in the show notes when this goes up on YouTube or Facebook or wherever the fuck it will go. So you guys can check that out if you'd like and understand what we're trying to do. It should be really good. I want to say thank you to everyone who's helped and supported us so far. I have promised that if we do hit the target, I will do a dance video, some sort of Warhammer dance video / TikTok / I don't know what that might be, but something. Anyway, yeah. Anyway, the T-Sport Arena. We should sell tea there. That would be great. I was thinking probably we're just going to have a kettle and a tea and coffee machine and it just be free. Because they're sports stars. But sports stars who drink tea and beer. It's like the sports of the 70s. It's a real sport. It's a proper sport. T-Sports, tea, titties, and tabletop. That's it, Tom. Exactly. Oh, thanks, No Epiphany, for donating $15 to help us out so far. You guys are great. You guys have been amazing today. I'm going to be... That's overwhelmingly generous. Thank you, and you all have been. I'm going to stop for now because... I just don't want it to become boring and me just talking about this one thing. I really appreciate all your help. Thank you very much. It's phenomenal. Thank you, especially No Epiphany, for today. Right. Also, please do have Nathan do the video. No problem. I'll have Nathan edit the video. How does that sound? I'll appear in it and Nathan can shoot and edit it. It will be perfect. Anyway. I'm not going to be staying for overly long today, or I will be running off at exactly 1 p.m. because we will be we're putting some of the equipment into the arena today, which is really fun. Well, actually, we're not. We're throwing away a bunch of the rubbish. I'll send you some pictures, or I'll put some pictures up on Twitter. But I would like to talk about some Warhammer, and the things that I'd like to talk about is just how overwhelmed I am, I think is the real answer, and kind of get your feeling on it. One of my ways now, since lockdown, I think, or maybe it's always been my way, and I want to thank you, all of you, who let me do this for a living. One of my ways to kind of unpack what's mentally going off in my head is to talk to you guys. And it's, the 40k thing's a big deal. And I keep pondering Age of Sigmar, and I'm like, when are you going to update the app? Like, what's going on? And it's a bit of a shit show. And I honestly just kind of want to like just embrace some of those thoughts and ask you guys. And also, if this is the design philosophy for 40k, when we come to New Age of Sigmar, whenever that may be, which I really do think is going to be the summer next year, because that kind of puts it that on the 3-year cycle, very much like we've had for Age of Sigmar so far and 40k so far. So I feel that 3-year cycle is very definitely going to be the process that we go through. I wonder what its ramifications and implications for Age of Sigmar are going to be. And they don't look great, if I'm honest. I'm not trying to be negative. I think the design stuff the design stuff that they're currently going to do for 40k is going to end up making 40k a better game, but it will end up making 40k a better game when all of the codexes are out again. And so I'm just kind of left here like, wait, like it's a game in 2 years? Like honestly, and as for someone who makes content, we were the guy last night. We were like, "Oh, what are we talking about next week?" And it's like, well, there's no point doing a tactica on anything because we know it's going to change weapon profiles, wounds, everything. Like that's not including. Like we've only just seen a glimpse that they're changing core fundamental rules, as in wounds, as in weapon profiles. But that means they're also going to be changing. Like, are they going to be fundamentally changing how sub-factions work? Psychic powers? Are they going to be fundamentally changing stratagems? You know, how is it all going to change and in what way? And it kind of makes you excited. Excellent. I am excited because I'd like to see them do a better job. But it also makes me worried because when is the game a game? Am I the only one who feels that? I do wonder what you all think. So I'm going to ask you in the chat. Also, I'm not wearing headphones so I can hear myself and it's creeping me out. I'm just going to say that. Anyway. Have I tried getting anyone from Games Workshop on the stream, if at all possible? I haven't, but I could try. That would be very interesting. Do you know what? I'll do a tweet, and I'll see. How does that sound? Grinaldi, thanks for donating 5. Oh, man, £5. Thanks, bud. Thanks, buddy. We're at 30% now. 30%. Thanks. Not long till that dance video. Thank you so much. Didrin, thanks for subbing. Appreciate that loads. Can you summarize the 40k news in context? Yes, I can. All right, I'll put it into context. So, effectively what's happened is they've released the new edition of the game. They put a whole bunch of new points out for the game in a huge kind of errata. Excellent. And it's all available in the app, but you can't build in the app. It's also available in Battlescribe. Great. So the whole game got new points. Cool. It also got some new core rules, but the rules aren't different enough that you can't use all of the old publications. So all of the codexes and the Psychic Awakening are viable. So right now, if you picked up Battlescribe and your army, you could play new 9th edition 40k. No problem at all. Easy peasy. However, in the past few weeks, they've done several FAQs to change some of those core rules, and they've kind of flip-flopped on a few of them. But again, we've ended up with kind of a more sensible decision because they flip-flopped. So no criticism from me. Excellent work. You would have hoped they would have thought of these ahead of time, but we're going to give them the benefit of the doubt, and we'll be like, cool, not a drama. The real issue is that they because of Rona, I assume, effectively they've been sending out repackaged Necrons and Space Marines, and they've been selling them. Where this has caused an issue is that it includes inside them the rules, the rules for the data sheets for those units, and we've seen some not point changes. We've seen some rules changes, specifically small baby Marines, as I guess they're called, but they're called Firstborn. The Firstborn Marines have got +1 wound, so they're now gone from 1 wound to 2 wounds. And as Colonel Cabbage put in an excellent post yesterday on YouTube. It doesn't mean that they're twice as good, because obviously you're just doubling the wounds. You're not doubling their output. So you're not paying twice as much, which is kind of something I said last night, which was wrong. So there you go. You're not getting 2 weapon profiles plus wounds. You're getting 2 wounds and still the 1 weapon. So you're doubling the survivability, but you're not doubling the output. So it's a really good point. So you shouldn't really be paying twice as much. Who knows what you should be paying, but I think he made a really good point about it. Anyway. But then you see Terminators have gone up to 3 wounds. Where this, you've seen like Necrons, some of them have got better weapons. All overall, excellent changes. Excellent changes. I really do think that. I think it's going to make a better game. I think it's going to add some granularity to the design space for units and models. I think it's a really, really good change. The problem is the haves and have-nots. So when Necrons come out, or Space Marines come out, for example, they're going to have twice as many wounds. Now, obviously, Primaris already had that as well, but the Terminators go up to 3 wounds. Now, they've said that the process that they're going to do... Trelly, thank you for subscribing, by the way. And Diadrin, also, big love to you. All is dust. Thanks for subscribing. The issue is that you're going to get is that you're going to have armies which... So they're going to update multi-melters. They've changed the rules for. So your multi-melters in your Marine force will be better. But they've said they're going to update all weapon profiles like them. So let's say you've got a multi-melter in your Chaos Marine army. That's also going to be updated. Excellent. They're going to do that in October. But they've said they're going to update the wounds tracking sort of setup. so like the wounds changes and general kind of datasheet changes as codexes come out. So that means that I'm going to possibly be running my Death Guard, who I know are going to eventually be 2 wounds, but I'm going to be running them as 1 wound. But also now they're going to change the weapon profiles. So if I'm going to be running, I don't know, like multi-melters are available in Chaos Marines, they're also available in normal Marines, but Plague Spitters and Plague Knives aren't. So I don't know how they're changing those. Like a Heavy Flamer and a Plague Splitter are basically the same, but like, are they also going to get changed? I don't know. So I can't, like, I was like, I don't want to buy anything now. Like, what do I equip? I was talking to my friend last night about Tau, and she was saying, like, what do I put on my stuff? And I was like, I don't know. I could have told you yesterday, but I can't tell you tomorrow, because if they change the weapon profiles to, again, be more thought out and be better weapon profiles, which is excellent, really, really excellent, and I'm really pro that, like, I still, like, you can't build anything. And also because this is the other element, you don't know the time frame. So let's pick Tau as an example. So I know Necrons and Marines in October. Excellent. But I want to play Tau because I'm a monster, let's say. Big love to the Tau players. So what happens is I go, all right, okay, I could build my Tau now, but I don't know what weapons to give them. And I don't know if they're going to change in November or February or March next year, or in 2 years' time. If I know it's going to happen in 2 years' time, I'm awesome. Because I'm like, cool, I'll build my Tau Force now, play it for the next year and a half, and then I'm gravy. Like, I won't love that it all changes, but I'm all good. However, I don't know that because they've given us no roadmap. So I would love a roadmap from Games Workshop to understand, well, whatever's going on, I think is the answer. Anyway, I am now going to read you guys in the chat. So that's what's happened, and those are where my feelings are at. And I'd just like to talk to you guys about it and see what you think. We had a really great show talking about it last night, but I'm still processing it. I still think there's so many things to learn about it. Like, and the weapon profiles are like very different as well. Anyway, Marcus Rock, thanks very much for subscribing. Right, let's see what everyone's saying. Games Workshop doesn't even have a roadmap. How do you expect them to give you a fucking roadmap? Yes, all right. Yeah, no, good, solid point. I agree with that. They could put an equivalent to an index behind the app's paywall. PokeJohn, we would all pay for that, right? And I agree. That is an excellent point. They now have a delivery system for us. Like, I think this show is going to have to be a show about Games Workshop's books and box and the paradigm of it. I thought about actually going in on it today. I was like, do I do this? Because I just want to talk Warhammer and toys, right? By the way, I'm painting up some Death Guard right here. Just big love to Sorry again there. But we're going to have to talk about it because I think I understand it, and other content creators probably aren't going to necessarily approach this subject. So let's talk about it, and let's talk about why we need it to change in a moment. So we'll go through there. Just magnetize everything. Loadout problem solved. Okay, that works. Just build cool minis and screw the rules, says K-Dread. Also a great decision. So let's see what everyone else is saying in the chat. Sorry, I've missed a bunch. The 40k changes are really mega, says Sir Callum, but I'm unsure why the web's upset with it. We're surely expecting new codexes and new rules to be released over the course of the edition. I'm happy with how the edition will play with current codexes and new ones. I just think such a change after a huge release, but sure, it'd be great if we got them all at once, but that's never going to happen. Well, so Callum, I get it. It's never going to happen because of how I'm going to come back to that, because I'm going to approach this in the books and box sort of section where we talk about it. Would you like to see something like indexes come out right now? Yes, I would absolutely love to see something like indexes come out right now, where they change some of those things. And they've obviously thought about it. The problem also is from like a perspective. Oh, Trelly, oh man, thanks for donating £50 to the bloody fund. You sexy big donation energy angel. Thanks, man. And Marcus Rock, also thanks for donating £9. Thanks, guys. We're now at 32.88%. Oh, that's really awesome of you. Thank you. You're gonna throw me off. It's gonna throw me off. Thank you very much. really excellent. You're going to hear some really great sound at some point. We're going to be miking up players. If you've ever wanted to listen to 9 hours of Darren Watson play Warhammer, then you're going to get that at some point in full audio spectacularness. Not really sure what that sounds like, but thank you anyway. Yeah, I would love to see something like an index. And the reason I'd like to see something like an index is because I would assume that even though the Talbot might be, let's say, 2 years away, we're just arbitrarily saying that. I don't know anything. That's my arbit, right? I would hope that they're balancing multi-melters against how they're designing Tau in 2 years. If they're just individually doing one book, it's like writing a book, not just a regular book, a novel, some fiction, and you just don't plan where it's going, and you just write chapter after chapter, hoping it makes sense at the end, which it won't. I wish Games Workshop rules writers would do a press conference where all content creators could ask questions. Oh my god, yes. I agree they're telling us 9th has come out, but it feels like the news changes which are coming almost bigger than what we have been given so far. I agree with that as well. Okay, I'm coming back down to here. Really appreciate the donations, dude. Thanks very much. And even if you can't donate, or don't want to, still, thank you so much. It comes down to the options of balancing, to the points balancing until the codex releases are done. If the new upgraded stuff is expensive enough that the older stuff is still competitive to a degree, then it might work. And I agree with that as well. Like, it is going to come down to how they balance it. How do you balance the upgraded armies versus the non-upgraded armies, right? No word on the Forge World books. So, as a casual Necron player, will the game be crystal clear to me when the codex comes out? Will I be able to make informed purchase decisions then? Yes, obviously, always allow that 2 week gap for FAQs to come out after. But yes, if you're a Marine player, although not quite, because they've said that they're going to also be updating the Marine rules. Oh, is that in that Marine book? I forget. But if you're a Necron player, you're sorted. You can buy Necrons. You're the only Xenos race that's laughing. You're like, got my book, got my early edition codex, whereas everyone else is just stuck in limbo. And that is a tough place. And that's why people are generally kind of concerned and upset. They can't have this model now where every 3 years they bin the last edition, they need new books to work. Will basically mean they'll only get a small fraction of time with a complete game before the cycle repeats. But they're going to want that, right? Let's talk about that in a minute. I saw an interview with one of the story guys, and I kind of got the impression that they don't really know the overall direction they're heading. I would definitely say that that's true. Are you going to give players any pointers when you mic them up? It says, do shortgate. I know the constant stream of rubbish that spills out of my often bit-drunk mouth when I play, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone. Yes, we will give some people pointers, but you also won't be able to listen to the players live. It'll be it'll be recorded, because obviously when we're doing Super Series or any sort of live content in the future. Oh, Skinny Boots, thanks very much for the donation as well of £10. Dance. I'm just going to do a dance when people donate. I don't really have anything else to do. I'm just going to do a dance. I'm one of the worst streamers probably in the world. This is my thing. That's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to flip this paint. Thank you so much. We will give some tips to the guys and let them know they're being recorded, but it won't be part of the live mix. As I wrote a blog post about it today. Effectively, what currently happens when we live stream games is we have someone relating the information to the commentators, and commentators hopefully make more entertaining kind of audio than you would get from just listening to the players. But there are people who also just want to listen to the players. And for analysis, big shout out to my stats team, because I've got a real serious stats team on the go now. The Stat Squad is what they're officially called. We are going to be able to listen to the audio back, and we'll be able to take more detailed analysis and stats, which would require lots of people at tables to do that in an ideal world. We can't actually do that because of COVID, and also maybe because of staffing issues, but we can have people from all over the world help out as part of the Stat Squad and listen to the audio back and be able to relate that. So if you listen to the shows that I did earlier in last week when we talked about stats for Age of Sigmar, or if you listen to the 40k Stat Center and you listen to what I was talking about with stats that we'd like to track for 40k, we'll be able to do this better because of this. So what you guys will end up with is different content. So while we're still playing the games and doing it in the content the way that we do it anyway, you'll end up with different content that's also excellent, which is part of the whole story, which is cool because it's like eating your dinner twice, I think, or double dipping. Is that a thing? We're thinning our coats. Anyway, right. Will the Forge World books that cover Xenos have different weapon profiles? I guess we're only going to get one Forge World per edition. Yeah, who knows? Players should be okay if they don't go for skew lists, you'd hope, says Pokey John. I'm curious, how was 40k's release schedule affected this year after AOS's second ed, where there was a new AOS battle tome every month? I think the year ahead will be a reverse in monthly new codexes. Draconda, I absolutely agree. That we are going to be on a huge codex cycle. So, double dipping is something we used to do at raves, but I'm fucking old. I think that's where I got the term from. Oh, Tom, thanks for the £12.50 donation. Also, you get another paint pot flip. Thank you so much, and a dance. Hey, Swan or Rurik, big love to you. Do you feel cross-faction balance is more important, delicate in 40k than in Age of Sigmar? If Games Workshop suddenly made Liberators 3 wounds, people would be... I don't know. Would they? I brought this up in a conversation. Someone asked me yesterday. So let's talk about the ramifications on Age of Sigmar, and then let's talk about the process that Games Workshop obviously use. And again, thank you very much, Tom, for the donation. 33%, everyone. FYI. Oh, we're third of the way there. Let's do that. Okay. Drop my pen. Oh no. So let's talk Age of Sigmar, right? And how this might affect it. Now, in Age of Sigmar, there's already a more prolific wound spread. So 2 wound infantry is pretty commonplace. And we've talked about this on the show. Go and listen to the show back about Marauders, where we talk about the difference, obviously, between Chaos Warriors and Marauders. Now, Chaos Warriors have got more wounds per model, but that's kind of a negative because they can't take up as much board space. And then there's lots of kind of like mid-tier, like 3-4 wound units, like Skyfires, Eels. Oh, damn. I'm trying not to say Eels this month. So just scrap that I said that. And then you've got kind of like mid-tier stuff, which is super weird, like Korgraths. Big shout out to my Corgi fans. So there's kind of the 8 wound cap, and you're like, okay, that's interesting. And then you've got the vehicle equivalent in Kharadron Overlord boats. You've got things like... Bastillodons and kind of that monster variant, which kind of take up the place of tanks. But I would say generally there's kind of more wounds per model in Age of Sigmar armies. Probably. That just goes off a feel. Yeah. Wooden models in 40k are bigger and deals damage doesn't overspill. Wounds on models in 40k are bigger. So the wounds in 40k are different because damage doesn't overspill. So that's really, really important as well, because you're picking the right profile weapons to deal with the right kind of threats that are out there. So damage 2 weapons, and now there's going to be loads more damage 2 weapons are useful, because obviously intercessors and generally marines were quite popular towards the end of the edition, and they were quite useful. Whereas against Orc boys who are only 1 wound at the minute, the damage is kind of wasted, I guess, and you're paying the points for damage that doesn't happen. Whereas Age of Sigmar, you can just punk stuff, whatever the case may be. Some people don't like that, some people do like that. I personally like it. I think it's kind of like more simple. And I don't think that's a negative that it's simple. I think there's still that kind of balance to it. Anyway, the point I was trying to make is that if you started to increase the wound cap in Age of Sigmar, it's not quite as significant. Big shout out to Tom. For subscribing. The wound cap in Age of Sigmar, I think, is generally larger, in my opinion. So it going up in 40k, I think, is good. But if you started to add, let's say, I think in order to really do this, you would have to add 2 wounds onto Liberators, 2 wounds onto the kind of those Stormcast units, not 1. You would double them if you wanted to kind of go through this same process. You wouldn't add 1, you'd add 2. And then, yeah, that would really have an effect on the game, but the game doesn't need that effect to occur. 40k kind of needs that effect to occur because they've got more granular narrative strength, where because a marine should, like 10 marines should be able to like kill 200 orcs, 400 orcs, something similar. Like they're elite. they're an elite unit, they're not a horde unit. But when they were 1 wound, they were just the same as the Orc Boy. You can only make them so much more better. Is that a good sentence? So much more better. So having them as 2 wounds is excellent, because then there's a real difference between them and, let's say, a human guardsman. It really, really works. Same way, obviously, you've just got regular humans in Age of Sigmar have got 1 wound, and Fire Slayers have got 2 wounds and are naked somehow. It doesn't really make much sense. Anyway, I don't think that this is necessarily going to apply or really have an effect on what we'll see in Age of Sigmar, personally. I don't think it's a major issue. The output also in 40k is higher, generally, because you can do it at range. Now, that's not 100% true, but if most of your army is shooting, you can bring most of that shooting, obviously, if you're able to see, and they've done loads of work on that with terrain, you can bring most of that shooting to bear on a single unit or in place somewhere. Whereas in a fighting game, you can only really, sometimes just because of the base sizes, like you can't get any more units into attack, or, those units can't move far enough to charge to get into a fight. So you can't bring all of your output from your army to bear in one place. Obviously now with the shooting that we see in Age of Sigmar, so the KO guys can just pop up, do all their shooting, Flamers can pop up, do all their shooting, Salamanders couldn't. But Salamanders is different because they can take 1 unit and pop over and shoot. So it's different, right? I think this is an excellent change generally. But how it applies to Age of Sigmar is that I don't think it would work in Age of Sigmar, nor does Age of Sigmar need it. I think that these are really positive changes for 40k. What does worry me for Age of Sigmar, and I'm trying to not make this a negative thing, is if they do this cycle where it feels like the 2 new codexes in Marines and Necrons are almost going to put everyone on the back burner until they get theirs. I don't want Age of Sigmar 3 to occur, Stormcast to come out with whoever they're going to be fighting, and then them be the only 2 books until I start to get my new books. I'd feel a little hard done by, personally. Anyway, that's kind of my process. Also, the problem is like the evolving game state, and we'll talk about that in a moment when we talk about the books. But I am just going to take a fighting game, lol. It was a fighting game. I'm just going to take a swig of water, and I'm going to remind everyone on the podcast to please stay hydrated. I'm going to say thank you to everyone on the Wargamer Patreon. Couldn't do it without you. And everyone in the YouTube comments, could you hit that like and subscribe? Share it with your friends, and tweet about it on your TikTok posts. Thanks. The Wargaming community, massive on TikTok. I'd just like everyone to know that. Right, let's see what you are all talking about, and what are your thoughts so far on where we're at? That's my question. Anyway. Oh, MacGyver, thanks very much for subscribing. Big love. There's lots of problems with trying to apply lore to the game in 40k. For example, should Necrons not all be up to 2 wounds? They feel pretty powerful lore-wise. I agree with that. I do. That ludo-narrative dissonance, which we've talked about on the show, where the narrative doesn't seem to fit the rules, makes sense. But having 2 wound Marines, or generally tankier Marines, makes more sense. It pushes the game closer to where we expect things to be, right? My thoughts on how this relates to AOS. When the second issue came out, there were factions who still had not have a book since AOS's first launch. At that time, it seemed wise to get army books out as quickly as they did. I doubt AOS 3rd Ed will be the same. Better wait and see, stay calm, and keep rolling 6s. Draconda, I'd agree with you, apart from the same was true in 40k. They redid the edition, and in 8th, they completely redid the game. So, brand new game, awesome. Index is out, so everyone can play that new game, awesome. And then they released every single book. They were like huge volumes of books, and then they released subsequent like pamphlets for those books in the Psychic Awakening, and then they reset the game. And I think they'll do exactly the same for Age of Sigmar. So they'll do AOS 3. You'll be able to kind of play AOS 3 with your army, and then it'll just be another cycle of codexes or battle tomes. And the real question is were you not overwhelmed by the volume of battle tomes that we received last year? I mean, it's cool that we got new stuff, but did we get lots of new stuff? Like, did anyone else not feel a little overwhelmed? I do this for a job, and I felt overwhelmed. Now, obviously, I'm keeping track of 2 game systems, so maybe that's the reason why. Maybe I'm also not very smart, and that's the other reason why. But I sometimes felt like it was overwhelming the volume of information. And I wonder if you guys feel the same. I wonder if we're going to see codexes put out as pairs. So Necrons and Space Marines, Death Guard and Astra Militarum. I don't know. Like, that's a lot of information to take in the evolving game state, which will be the next point we talk about. We'll talk about the game state, we'll talk about the game and its environment, and we'll do all that together. Absolutely love that Marines become the resilient hyper-elite army it was meant to be. Good, Sergeant Rolf, I agree with you. There's been a real strength of AOS. Very old books like Ineth and Daughters of Cain are still competitive in 40k. Even books from the start of 8 struggle by the end. Never mind cross edition. I agree with that. I'm playing Titanicus until this all blows over, says Dietry. I mean, just like, not to be negative, because I'm just going to keep painting up what I'm painting and be very happy about it. Because I've also built it the way I've already built it, so there's nothing that I can really do about that. And I understand the game changes, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Ty Williams says last year felt like a breakneck speed of releases. That's how I felt anyway. When you start to see something like Psychic Awakening or Malign Importance, you have to start getting ready for the new edition. Lol, says W. Soren. We agree with that. No, it gets too much. I can't be asked to keep up, says DeBolt. Excellent point. As someone trying to learn the rules, I found this all too much and basically stopped trying to keep up for now, says Gitley. This is the feeling I think that people are going to feel. At the bleeding edge, it was a lot of info, but I don't think if you play the game outside of competition, there is even real need to know everything, says Mostin Power. Okay, fair point. Fair point. And I agree with you. I think that there are volumes of people who don't really even need to keep up. I've played games before and I've been like, oh, you can't do that because the FAQ. And they're like, there's an FAQ? And it's like, yes. And it's completely okay that some people only approach the hobby in that way. Like, they don't get any deeper on it. That's what they do. That's fine. But Games Workshop have also made a very specific statement about what they're trying to achieve in some elements of the hobby. They've released a tournament pack. The new General's Handbook has got 2 scoring systems, one for teams and one for individuals. So you've got they've clearly created a difference between match play and tournament play, and they're very invested and focused. They even hired a team to do the focus play. Oh, so Callum, thanks for donating £5. Yes, 34%. Oh, thanks, bud. Thanks, buddy. So yeah, there's like, they've made a statement, and we all know people play competitive 40k. People play competitive Age of Sigmar. Just because, like, Games Workshop can't be asked doesn't mean that world doesn't exist, and it also doesn't mean it's not their customer base. There is another customer base, but, like, if I worked in a cafe, I wouldn't, like, give one group okay service and then just throw rocks at the other group. It doesn't make any sense. Like, you've got loads of customers. Treat them well. Anyway, that's my point. Right, so let's talk about the Gutted I Missed the Show last night. Big changes. Datcom, big changes, buddy. You got any thoughts on it? What if they like rocks? Great point. Hadn't thought about that. But then they'd be at the rock throwing store, not my cafe, which is serving vegan iced lattes with some walnut syrup is the current go-to, I've heard. Henry Steele, I'm finding the opposite. Coming back to 40k after a while out, it feels like the pressure's off and build what you like look of is more viable, which is a really great way to approach the hobby. You don't have to build it for what's best or even what people think is best, because sometimes what people think is best is bollocks. Because there's a chance that they'll be decent at some point. Admittedly, I can come at playing from a more casual hobby angle. I think that's fine. I think that makes sense. Also, the tournament game is generally... I don't want to make any sweeping statements. I think being able to... all approaches to the hobby are good and valid. All of them. Absolutely. But I think this negatively affects tournament players quite a lot. And you might be like, oh, lol, like that's tough for you. But I do think that is tough, because it's a group of people who approach the hobby in a way, and they, I don't think it's unfair to say that people should be disappointed. Just get a Marine army and Xenos army so you can play the proverbial off-season. I get it. So Marines, definitely you need that army. Unfortunately, you don't know which Marines, because you obviously could have got all the Primaris stuff last year, but now all the Firstborn stuff might be better because it's cheaper but just as good. However, you don't know about the new Primaris stuff coming out, which might be better than the old Primaris stuff, or worse than the non-Primaris stuff. So I wouldn't do Marines. I do Chaos Marines, so Death Guard, Thousand Suns. I'd pick up those 2 armies because, and then a Xenos army as my off army. That would kind of be my like strategic way of doing this. Or I'd do a Nikos and I'd just build an army of Marines that I could use as Chaos or Imperium, which is the smartest way to play. Competitive wargaming, hello. The buffs to Marines are super concerning. All non-bolter factions will have to wait, and Marines will dominate once again. Okay, so there you go. We talked about the weapons. So let's talk about the process really quick for Games Workshop's releases really quickly, and then we'll talk about what we think should be the best version of the game. Let's prefix it. So when I play competitive gaming, I think about and if you guys want to, you could go read my workbook, which is on wargamer.com. And one of the things that I talk about there is prepping. So I want to know what's popular. So if you go onto something like the 40k Stats Center, or if you go onto the Honest Wargamer Stats, you would see which armies are like popular. So I might have to know that I'm playing against, right now, like my predictions are that I would play against Seraphon, and I would play against Shooty Stormcast, and I'd be playing against Skaven and Fire Slayers, and I'd be playing against Nurgle, Saves Darkness. Like, there's a bunch of stuff that I'd be playing against, and I have to kind of balance that all in my head, and I have to think, well, what stuff do I want to commit my time to building and painting and getting ready to play in a tournament? So there's a game state, and I want to go and involve myself in that game state. The same way, it's the difference between knowing that I'm going to go fight a boxer or I'm going to go fight doing Muay Thai. I'm still fighting, but both of them are very different. Muay Thai, however you want to say it. Like, they're both very different. So you approach them in different ways. You train in different ways, but you're still effectively going to do the same thing. If you're going to do a judo match or whatever you would do, or a BJJ like match, you're still doing the same thing effectively, but it's a different game state. Now, the issue is, with this cyclical nature, is that the game state never settles, which is exciting because you get peaks and troughs, and you get people like rushing to be the people who understand and get the most knowledge. But also, problematically, is that some stuff is just better than other stuff all the time. However, when it's so unstable that you can't predict it at all, which is what 40k is currently at, or will be in 2 months, which is still 2 months away, you can't involve yourself in it at all. You just don't understand what's happening, no matter how much you try to approach that game. Now, if you looked at other game states, like, let's look at League of Legends as an example, something that I know quite well. Not only do they do patch notes, they tell people what's changed in the patch notes. Everyone kind of reads it, assesses it, and then they start to work out what's good, and then they play it for a set period of time. They're like, this is the period of time and how long this game state will be viable. But because there's no roadmap from Games Workshop for how long the game state is viable, you don't know when you're putting your stuff into said game state. So you're a bit like, what's the game? Like, it's unstable and you don't know where it's at. And that's a massive negative. And I guess the question we need to ask is why that happens. And why it happens is because of Games Workshop's internal process, which I can give some insight in. The insight to there is that they have this thing called wooden dollars. So as a company internally, each department, which is led by a department head, is effectively buys stuff off each other department. So miniatures, for example, produce some miniatures. Publications, which is the one that we're going to focus on today, buy those things off miniatures. And then miniatures kind of like we've made X money this year. And then they've got like a P&L sheet. They're like, we have this many people, and then publications bought this much stuff off us. Excellent. Publications then produce books and box games. That's what they are. And I'm sure you know who's in charge of that and how that works. Then what books and box games do is they package everything up. They kind of turn it into codexes, battle tomes, box sets, whatever it might be. And then they push those out to trade, web, and storefronts. And effectively, those guys all buy stock off them. They're like, yeah, we want to buy that product. Here's X month, X. And then publications can be like, look, we've made this much this year. We can have more staff, if that makes sense. So they buy off each other, and that way they've got their own P&L sheets, and they're able to like produce. Or this is how it was explained to me when I worked there. It might have changed, but I still think it's the same because it's pretty fundamental. Now, why that's important is because they want to keep selling us books, because the guys who are selling us models in the store, they only want to sell us models, or they want to sell us models and books and whatever it might be, but effectively they've got their own P&L sheet, which is separate to the publication's P&L sheet. And the publication's P&L sheet, like, so profit and loss sheet, they just want to make more money than they made last year, because that's their metric for success. Because not the company makes more money, which is obviously a metric for success, but our specific department made more money than last year. And that is why you don't have a holistic approach to the problem of the game state and the codex release, is because in order for that P&L sheet to be as good next year as it was this year, they need to sell as many battle tomes and codexes as they did last year. So they now are just like, so you're only ever going to see, because you obviously like, well, look, you only sold the same, the past 2 years, you've only sold the same as you did the previous 2 years. So what they're going to want to do is produce more, not less, and uptick how much they sell us. Not in quantity, but not in quantity as in like 10,000 Tau codexes, as in volume of books. And look at how many books they sold last year. Like Psychic Awakening was just like a pamphlet that they just slung out left, right, and center as often as they could. Like it was like one a month or one every 2 weeks. Look at the Marine book, in addition to 5 supplemental books. It's continual, because that's how, so it's an internal fiscal problem and not like a kind of game state design problem. And that's how it works. So that kind of, I hope, gives you some gives you some insight at least. And you might not care. That's fair. You ever like, I just want to talk about soldiers, and I just want to talk about the soldiers. But I thought I'd talk about it because the real answer is what would be the best version of that for us as customers? What could we get that would be better than what we currently get as customers? And this is what I was trying to unpack last night. I was like, well, I understand for them, that's really hard. Because if they said tomorrow, hey guys, we're going to release all 9th edition codexes tomorrow, it's £820 or whatever the fuck the total is. Maybe someone could put that together for me. The issue is I'm not going to do that, because I don't have £840 to spend tomorrow. But do I have £30 a month to spend on codexes? Yes. Do I have £40 to spend on codex? Well, I mean, I have to buy every codex and battle tome. So, I mean, some days it's like, some months it's like 200 quid. It's the worst. Thank you to everyone on Patreon. But, so that's their process. Like, so I can understand that from a business perspective, but also just from a general perspective. Like, we're never going to do that. We're going to pick and choose the ones that we want and not buy the others. Whereas, if in my Tau 2 years codex, I see the Necron one, I think, well, at least I'll buy that. That'll be fun to read. You know, they pick up that sale, and they pick that up every month. So it makes sense, but it's not the best version of what we can get. And I guess that's the real conversation. What's the best version of what we could get? And we obviously all talk about a living rulebook, but what does that mean? And what would we be willing to pay is the real question. So a living rulebook online would be the best version of that. And what that would probably look like is the app that they've made, which they've done a terrible job with, so that's a problem. Where inside that we would have all of the rules available, and you would just pay a subscription fee. The problem is they're never going to shift to that if they just charge us £5. Like, and now the app is terrible. I'm just going to prefix all of this with, the app is terrible. The app needs to be loads better. It's rubbish. But if I had all of the rules available for every codex every month, and I just had to pay a higher premium fee, I'd pay it. As long as it included also the lore, because I also want to read the narrative. So if it was like £10, £15 a month, not forgetting that you get all of the quality content that you get in the world from Netflix for like £8 or whatever the hell it is, then that would be fine, I think. And then they could just keep wanging the books out in big lumps when they feel like they need to, in like an index style, which is what I think they currently need for 9th edition, 9.5. Or they can just focus, and they could just put all of the rules out in the app, and because it's still the app that you're going to need for rules reference and everything else, get away with the books, and then or just release the books as like these quality digital pieces. Oh, McCipher, thanks for donating £5. What up? Okay. Okay. Thank you so very much, McCipher. You're an angel. Great to see you here, Rob. I'm currently watching Stormcast Eternal interview and your analysis. Oh, thanks, man. Thanks, and thanks everyone for being here. Anyway, so that's what I would like to see in the future. I'd like to see the thing I just said. What would you all like to see is the question. Netflix and Amazon Prime are a tough comparison. Those prices couldn't exist without those companies running a massive loss and or debt propped up by AWS invested confidence. Good point, yes, meatballs. Thank you. Which is why I'm not really... That's why I'm already willing to pay more. Like, I guess the question is if it was a living rulebook for 40k, would you pay £30 a month? That's my question. Like, that's my kind of... K-Dread, I'd go £20 a month if it was everything in and working. I mean, it feels like that would be okay, is what I'm trying to get at. Like, you know, especially if, like, they used the app to connect the gaming community. Because, again, this really affects, like, tournament tracking and all sorts of other stuff. You could do some real good stuff. So I guess that's my question. Would that be too much? Because that's what I was pondering last night. Because I was kind of trying to think of their problems, how they have to deal with it, what they're trying to do. Because they can't just stop making books next month. Because then their department's like, oh, lol, how do you make money? I would pay a decent amount by the product. It has to be excellent, and I no longer have faith that they can produce it. It's a good point, Winning. Thank you. $25 a month for if Black Library was included, says Bad Moona. Interesting. Only people who want all codexes who buy that, though, says Paddy. That's a good point. It's a good point. Age Sebmar says, if it was the only source of updated rules, I think that's too much. Okay. All right, fair enough. Gregorius Chan, thanks for donating £5 to the show as well. We're at 34%. Oh, man, thanks. The fact that they bring out chapter approval points changes, and 2 weeks later they again release new points from Marines, new profiles and stuff. They should have put out some sort of index to bring weapons and points on the level, and later bring more stuff like stratagems, chapter craft worlds, new units, whatever. I agree. I feel like the index approach they should have done in this edition. And I think it's wild that they haven't, and it makes the game super weird. Would a zero layout work for 40k app? I found the 40k app a bit daunting when I opened it first, like pictures. I think they could just do a better 40k app as well. Again, a terrible app. No, I'd pay $30 a month for some text. That's insane, especially with how pitiful their balance is. Okay, all right, good. Most people only need a portion of the rules, says Aegis Sinmar, or Sebmar. Sorry, good point. £20 is way too expensive. You can get a World of Warcraft subscription for cheaper and have full gaming experience. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I guess the real question is do they even fucking need the money? Like, I tried to work out the math of this as well. So let's say they sell 10,000 Tau codexes. Yeah? 10,000. And it's 30 quid. 30 quid. So I'm going to probably do some terrible maths here. Does that make it 30,000? No, that makes it 300,000 for that codex, let's say. And I think 10,000's on the high end, by the way, for Tau codexes. I think it's like lower than that. Yeah, maths. 300,000? Am I right? Am I right? Anyway, yeah. Like, look at their profits for last year. Like, even if 10,000 codex is so much Overwatch, lol, yeah. Even if they did that with, I don't know, maybe someone who's watching this could put this together, how many books that they sold. Not books, like, sorry, not as in individual books, but how many types of books. Like, how many battle tomes plus codexes plus pamphlets did they sell in 2019? I guess is the real question. And times that by some bollocks number, and then give ourselves some sort of financial, like, benchmark. They could just fucking lose that. They could just put the rules out for free. I probably would still buy battle tomes for really great narrative and, like, other bump for, like, especially for, like, narrative missions and fun stuff that wasn't, like, necessarily geared towards match play, like, and just have a great time with it. I'd be all over that. They probably could just lose that money, because when I see the rules, I want to just buy the models. Like, I'm talking about the fact I don't know what to do with my armies. Also, as a new player, I don't know what to buy for my army, so I don't buy. So if the rules are free, yeah, do you know what? I was giving them too much. I was like, yeah, £30 a month, maybe I'll pay that. No, fuck them. All the rules should be free. End conversation. Because the rules are a vehicle to sell their Black Library books and their miniatures, most importantly. They're just a fucking vehicle, so why are we paying any money for them at all? Like, just give us the free rules so you can play the game, which we buy the models to play with. I've changed my mind. All rules should be free. End. It's also a waste of paper. I agree with that. Free rules would be lower the barrier for starting new armies by so much, and people would pay more for it. Infinity has rules free online, and the books have lore and pictures. Good. They sound like smarter people. Times it by board meeting. Times it by a bollocks number someone. Also, for competitive game, it's really odd. You need to buy all the books to get an idea of what your opponent is using. Good point. Rules should be free. Listen, it took me a while to get there because I'm not smart, but we got it now. That's the correct answer. People will spend that money on more models. Also, another great point, said Mar. If you got 30 quid, you're not spending on a fucking book. You'll just spend it on a model. So you still get the 30 quid Games Workshop. Personally, I'd still buy a codex if it was cool stuff like painting guides, cool narrative, interesting stories about characters. Yep, agreed. Also agree with that. So you'd get 2 lots of money. Which I already... Rules should be free with codexes, yes. If they release the rules for free, rules should be free. Why accept less than AOS? But Colonel Cabbage, not just the datasheets. I mean the whole lot. I mean the sub-faction rules, psychic powers, the whole lot should be free in a searchable database. You guys, thank you, have helped me like get to where I need to be on this subject. That's right. Yeah, also $30 spent on book is £30 spent on models. You also need to get paints for. Yeah, genius move. Yeah, Games Workshop, we're a models company, not a rules company. So stop selling us rules. Good point. Hello, Bar on Saturday. In an uncertain real world, I think Games Workshop creating such uncertainty is a massive misstep. Agreed. Making a complex game even more inaccessible is super weird. It is. And it really misses the mark. What a lot of gamers talk about consistently is that Games Workshop don't understand what it's like to be a gamer. They understand what it's like to be a hobbyist because they're full of hobbyists. They're just like, lol, I bought a tank, I painted it like yellow and red. Particular burn. And then I'm a super cool dude. You're like, cool. Do you know what it's like to prep for a tournament this month? No, I don't really. I'm going to probably play this army in like 6 to 8 months. Nope, that's not how I live. I'm going to play this month and also next month and the month after. And then I'm playing this big team event that I really want to be in. So another army. And also, you've brought a new book out. So I actually have to redesign all 3 armies I've got because the shooting's a thing now. And you're like, oh, wow, that's pretty intense. Yes, it is really fucking intense. I don't spend 8 weeks painting like one tank, fucking yellow and red. It's not my life. They've never been about being competitive. They release tournament packs and also have tournament guides in all of their books. So yes, they are. They release FAQs and they have playtesters who are tournament organizers. So they 100% are about competitive wargaming. End of argument. I think you really understand their mindset with selling books. When if you want to get the point changes legit, you have to buy a book a year. Yeah, agreed. They'll need to be like Wizards of the Coast and actively start hiring gamers from within the community throughout the world. Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby. Right, yeah, I know you guys got to go. I got to go move a lot of stuff in the T-Sports arena. So big up to my team. We're going to be doing some stuff. I put some photos up on Twitter now, but this has been lovely. Thank you for helping me process this information. And it took me a while. To get there. All rules should be free. A Fear of Monkeys, thanks for donating £5 to the show, because it turns out sound equipment isn't free. So I want to say a big thank you to you for helping us that. Stay safe, don't overwork yourself. I'll try not to. Thanks very much. You guys can join me again tomorrow, obviously. Stream Street time, 12 p.m. BST. Thank you very much for helping me chat today. Yeah, great game, free rules. That's what we want. You guys have been wicked. I love talking to you guys in the chat. I hope you have a great weekend wherever you are. Stay hydrated if you listen to the podcast. Thank you to everyone on Patreon. Just be healthy and safe. You know, and if you're ever in a tough spot, feel down, low, whatever, you can always contact us. We'll send you some gifts of people dancing, probably from Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Rob's voice sounded extra deep today. Fuck you, Nick, and fuck you, buddies. Everyone have a great